GTA 5 is full of violence, explosions, sex, drugs, murder, and the guns. The guns, oh my god. Machine guns, shotguns, rocket launchers, miniguns, tear gas, the list goes on and on. But what's it got for those of us who like to keep things simple? Can you beat Grand Theft Auto 5 with only a pistol? We jump immediately into the action inside a bank heist gone wrong, and the challenge is a bust before it gets off the ground. T, M, and B are robbing a bank. I was gonna replace Brad, but we don't want to give the cops too much information that might lead them to suspects. With no pistol to use, I hid behind cover while BM dealt with all the cops. Trevor Phillips, who I am at the moment, is the cool, calm, and collected member of our raiding party. If anyone was mentally equipped to stand almost motionless in place for 18 minutes in the middle of a firefight against every mall cop this backwoods shit threw at us, it's him. Seeing as the options were to use melee attacks or a gun that isn't a pistol, and regardless of which I chose, the challenge was failed. I used my carbine rifle and the scalp of a Santa hat to leave behind the crew, found my pistol on a fresh body outside the bank, the driver took a nap, I outran the train in style, Michael and Brad were both down for the count, and I held off the police with my real gun. Unlike Fallout or Borderlands or Call of Duty or any of the other baby games I've played, GTA 5 is a much more realistic experience. You, like every American child, start things off with a rifle, so you know immediately that there are better guns than the pistol. But the pistol itself is a decent weapon. A single headshot is enough to bring down even the most notorious of Los Santos street trash, and auto-aim ensures missing a shot only happens once in a blue moon, if you're out standing alone. Trevor was the only one who made it out alive. The title card rolled. Michael is living the quiet life now, Brad is still very dead. Dr. Fred let me loose in the world, and the real game began. For those of you who've never heard of video games before watching this video, GTA 5 is a pretty massive game. How Long to Beat pegs the average main story playthrough at about 32 hours. So a lot of this game is going to be left out to not turn this into Mitten Squad's Titanic. I know what ship I'm going down with, and it's not this one. As I was leaving therapy, Franklin and Lamar were walking down the street looking for a score when they spotted a pair of automobiles looking for a new home. They say home is where the heart is, but Disney refuses to let anyone do an autopsy on their vehicles. Like a wild animal in the western frontier, each feral car can alert the wider pack to harm coming to them. Alarms and bells and whistles tell the police they're in trouble. Simeon, owning a car dealership, makes him the perfect target for a pair of gangsters with stars in their eyes, looking to become pawns in a 4-dimensional game of Connect 4. The next ride he had us track down was a bike stashed away in a cut episode of Storage Wars. The producers scrapped the episode when they forgot to put the bike in the garage, prompting the entire subdivision to wake the f*** up and light our asses up. Now, when it comes to missions like this one, there are two options for stopping the thief. Use a handgun to give him an extra hole, or hit him with 2 tons of all-American love. I'd have shot him, I'm not above murder, but early on, I had this small performance anxiety issue. I forgot that both bumpers are required to work the pistol in a car. For a minute there, I couldn't fire from behind the wheel. It was a small issue that resolved itself eventually. Unlike Lamar stealing the bike we just lifted for Simeon. Simeon sent me to retrieve another car, this one being a Hot Wheels toy for adults with too much money. It's locked inside the garage, forcing me to use nothing but my wits and my gun to get the truck. Whoever it is that owns this house, their daughter didn't look like she liked being killed. Franklin didn't like Michael popping up like a weasel in the back of my car. I didn't like spending minutes of my life driving in reverse all the way back to the dealership only to have my creativity squashed by this cutscene. Simeon didn't like getting his ass kicked by an old man. We're all one big unhappy family. Despite trying and succeeding at killing both of his children, Michael invited me back to his place to discuss the game, how to go places in life, and adult stuff that I have no need for. Jimmy, one of Michael's kids, took our yacht and tried to sell it. The kid's a moron, got his words mixed up, accidentally got himself kidnapped, and I was too busy getting my nose reshaped by an asteroid to do anything about it. Franklin climbed into the boat while I provided covering fire from my car. He saved Jimmy, and the mission broke. I couldn't get the car repaired until I restarted everything, including my life. Not long after I dropped Jimmy off at home, Lamar gave me a ring to let me know Stretch is getting out of jail. I couldn't tell you who he is. After he didn't have a slinky dog in place of a pet rock, I lost interest in robbing him. Instead, I met up with Tanya to steal in a much more dignified manner, or so I thought. Tanya didn't appreciate being made to walk to the towing station and wouldn't lower herself enough to ride in an ice cream truck. I got the car for her, but that's the last time I helped them with anything. Later in the day, Michael's cheating whore ruined Taco Thursday. I took the truck that was in the driveway that didn't belong to me, chased the yoga man into the hills, and pulled that f***er's house down into the dirt. With my seat still wet from the stains of success, I got a call from the man whose house I tore apart. It wasn't the yoga guy's house. It belonged to Martin Madrazo. This ain't good. This is very, very not good. For the less than 5% of you who don't know what's coming in the story, I won't spoil it yet. This situation with Martin is a mosquito bite, and before the day is done, I'll have to survive being tossed into a metaphorical meat grinder. A real one might have been a better choice, seeing as Madrazo wants $2.5 million to rebuild his summer home. Michael only knows one man who can get that kind of money. Remember Brad? Lester knew Brad before he died, and Lester's who we need. I want to make a joke about his walking, but those of us who are physically flawless don't poke fun at others. Lester's the kind of guy who wouldn't be caught dead in an out-of-season sweater. He had me put on shorts and a vest before infiltrating the Life Invader offices in Rockford Hills to rig the prototype device in the CEO's office. Now when he gets up on stage to reveal the new phone, he's gonna have egg all over his face. Franklin had just gotten home when Lamar walked by with Chop and planned for making some money. Wouldn't say what, only that it was around the corner, and in typical Lamar fashion, it went so far off the rails that it ended up at the train yard. Had it not been for Chop, that runaway clown would have been free to terrorize the city. He'll be safe in the van, while Lamar calls the kidnapping victim's family to demand 40 grand and to let them know exactly where we are. We're not getting that money. More so than greed, or government corruption, or greed, or the cyber influence in the world, or greed, or drugs, or greed. The main overarching story element in GTA 5 is me getting f***ed out of the money I earned. Every mission feels like here comes the payday, then you lose 95% of what you should have made. On the topic of money, I spent what little I had on something special, a treat for me. Hundreds and hundreds of bullets. I bought those bullets as a present to calm me down. Earlier in the day, I'd gone to Lester to talk about the job he's putting together, but this time he wanted me in a suit. I went from Lester to the gun store to buy bullets, then back to Lester because I forgot about the suit thing. Then the cheap discount clothes store didn't have a suit. After a second store didn't have a suit either, I stole a car from someone the cops were killing for complimenting their haircut on a bad day and drove home. My son, enjoying himself, drove me to destroy something of his for no reason. The bond between a father and son can be a special thing, and nothing says special like kicking your son's ass in a beach bike race. Turns out, he lost on purpose. He dragged me to the pier because his sister Tracy's out on a boat snorting the weed. I'll kill people, I'll break their bones, but no daughter of mine's gonna use drugs the wrong way. The gentleman filming her drugs came after us and got me. I punished Tracy by making Jimmy drive her home, put on my finest suit, returned to Lester, and rode out to Valentine to case the jewelry store. They'll be the target of my first heist. The security is light, a couple cameras, and a ventilation system for breathing gases. Child's play for someone as skilled at being a thief as I am. The second time up on the roof, I took the smart way down by aiming for Lester. Regarding getting into the jewelry store, we've got two options: loud and fun, or quiet and boring. The way I saw it, there was no reason to not go in as violently as possible. As the French say, violence begets violence, and to ensure we get our bread, I only hired the best of the best. Eddie Toe is the getaway driver, Gustavo Mota's joining me on the ground, and Paige Harris will be seducing the security camera. Franklin's coming along too. He's on the box, we couldn't leave him out of this. It'll take some time to get things up and running for the heist. In the meanwhile, Lamar rolled by again, this time with D and a business proposition involving a shotgun and a flashlight. I went ahead and bought the extensions for my pistol while I was in the gun salon. Lamar set up a simple drug deal for us. Everything went really well for maybe a minute. The mule got hit with a bullet, the rest of the enemy gang showed up at the recycling plant, and it all went to hell. Ballers were bouncing off the walls, doors were exploding, I died multiple times, and that was just inside. The police were waiting for us outside with a bird armed with a pilot that had no business being a pilot if I could kill him with a handgun. We escaped the fuzz by hiding in the train sewers, said our temporary goodbyes back at Franklin's house, and I went to steal a police van with Michael. I almost got away with it the first time. If it hadn't been for the driver, I'd have had it. My strategy was solid, I just wasn't thinking big enough. With the truck parked under the bridge, we readied our team and began the jewelry store heist. paying the extra money for a hacker with a keyboard bought us enough time to steal every last jewel from the store without firing a single shot that I can remember firing. With all the jewels, Eddie, Gus, and I fled the scene by driving through the sewers beneath the city until we emerged out into the river where Michael was waiting with a semi-truck and all the police in the county. The final stretch of this heist was the hardest. You've got to be really careful to not accidentally run over your driver or the gunman. We lost the cops at the end of the river, got away clean, went our separate ways, and I spoke to Michael about my cut. As we were enjoying the moment, Davey, an old acquaintance of Michael's, explained that a certain someone probably caught wind of what Michael said to the security guard during the heist, and that someone is none other than Trevor Phillips. His introduction is beating a biker's skull to death with his foot, then bragging to their leader about the dead guy's blood all over my boot. Antagonized by yours truly, they did the logical move of heading back to their compound to reground. What they didn't anticipate was me following them back and wiping them off the face of the earth, John Wick style. Everyone I just wiped out were members of the Aztecas, and their leader Ortega got himself a riverfront property. A great investment opportunity, courtesy of Trevor Phillips and friend. The bikers being taxed out of their hobby helped us to step up our work with the Chinese to smuggle drugs into Los Santos on a major scale. However, the Chinese don't sell meth to any average Joe. Only a big businessman is good enough for them. The kind of businessman who protects his clients as if they were his property by stuffing them into the freezer. Now here comes that twist I've been avoiding telling you about. There's a pistol in GTA 5, but there are also pistols in GTA 5. Other semi-automatic handguns with pistol in their name, and I bought one. As usual, if you think that invalidates the challenge, there's a dislike button with your name on it. Back in Trevor's apartment, I discovered that a lowlife had broken in and cleaned up. Before getting back to business, I told Wade to track down Michael Townley and see who the he is. While Wade shaking a couple fruit trees, I covered Ron with a sniper rifle while he infiltrated the Sandy Shores airstrip. Initially, I hoped to be able to use a pistol at this ludicrous range to keep Ronald safe. Running to Ron hurts the water tower's feelings, and the vintage pistol never had the makings of a varsity athlete. And to make matters worse, Trevor can't survive a plane ride up to the great beyond without a pistol. From this point forward, if I'm using something that isn't a pistol, it's because a pistol wasn't an option. Mentioning it every time will get old. By the skin of my teeth, I made it out of the airstrip with Ron, dropped the cargo we stole off in the ocean as an apology for everything we've done to it. The dolphins will love those scented soaps. I landed the planes at Trevor Phillips International Airport and received word from the Chinese that they're not interested in working with me. They want the O'Neills, those backwoods farmer f***s. You know what had to happen. Preparing their house for the new homeowners took more attempts than I thought. A family working together to master their craft was the reason the O'Neills were successful. In addition to thinning their ranks by a solid 80%, I blew up their house and continued my campaign against the Lost MC by taking them out where it'll hurt the most. In their trailers. My handgun did the heavy lifting for me. A couple people should call their insurance company if they're not dead yet, and I left with Wade for his cousin's place in the big city. Wade tracked down Michael, and according to the clock, it was time to settle an old score. Our beautiful reunion was interrupted with news of Tracy's latest attempt to escape the misery that comes with having my name. Her attempt went about as well as it could have. I thought she nailed the slutty Roddy Piper look, and judging by Trevor's use of a steel chair, he got it too. Life up until now has been fantastic. Now the government's decided that I'm their latest hand puppet. FIB agent Dave Norton's first job for me was sneaking into a creamery in search of a corpse. Mine, in a sense. For a brief moment, I regretted waking up from the dream of being dead. Regardless, I had an ass to kick and a death to verify. Ferdinand's death was as phony as mine. I shot my way out of the hospital, kick-flipped off a window into the trash, told Franklin he should leave town. He refused, citing loyalty or some other made-up shit, and poked around the docks as Trevor. Floyd, Wade's cousin, turned us onto a ship ran by private online warriors calling themselves Merryweather. Merry because jolly will give away their obesity, and weather because they don't go out in the rain. This is the second heist, the Merryweather heist. All bets are off. The choice is between the freighter technique or going down into the liquid abyss. I'll tell you what I chose later. Family comes first. Amanda's plowing the Go-Gurt man. The son's taking the burden of his sister's drug habit off her shoulders, and I'm having a panic attack. Jimothy drugged me and stole my ride. The aliens watching me from the bushes saw that this was their moment. They scooped me up just to send me back down. At home, everyone was gone. Me showing up in my underwear with a gun could have been the straw that broke the camel's back. Nobody was around to give me an answer. Not that it matters. They're gone, and that's that. I focused my fake rage on the man above Dave Norton. Steve Haynes is a special kind of prick. The entire point of his life is to advance up the corporate ladder. I've never been a fan of ladders. Rope has far more practical uses anyway, like rappelling from the tallest building in the land that also happens to be the Federal Intelligence Boys headquarters. We break in through the window and borrow Ferdinand, and they won't report it because he's probably a tax write-off. On my way home from another Lamar adventure, I ran out into the street and got creamed by a distracted driver. Luckily, a good Samaritan saw the entire thing from the passenger seat and beat the driver to death for what they did to me. Lester's got quite a few people on his shit list and will pay out the ass for anyone to take them out. Here's a pro tip to any would-be hitmen from your old buddy Paul: figure out who your target is before you open fire. I didn't. I learned the old-fashioned way by dying and being detected, escaped in a car that would have made Grandpa call me a pussy, performed a triplet of murders for Lester, and when Agent Harris broke out the duct tape and zip ties, Paul knew a good time was about to be had by all. That being said, I'd like to avoid YouTube doing to me what Trevor's about to do to Ferdinand, so I won't show you anything from that encounter. All I'll say is, they don't call me the Nutcracker just because I pay them to. Once the fibbers heard enough, I dropped Fernando off at the airport. He deserves a vacation to anywhere that isn't here, and returned to the Tetris factory to steal the submarine for the Merryweather job. Piloting a submarine may sound exciting, but let me assure you it is not. Falling off the back of Wade's truck after we secured the damn thing was more fun. The last piece we need is the cargo bob, the great majestic carrier pigeon that will lift the submarine into the sky. The cargo Robert is at the military base. I bet you're wondering how I got inside. I went nuts. First I called a taxi, then I shot a guard in the kidney, popped 2 more guards, and made my way to the parking lot where I ignored all the vehicles and continued on foot. Having a pistol and a silencer was the only reason I could do this. I was pretty full of myself after I pulled that off, but after I pushed my Bobby to his limit, I felt ready to tackle anything. Like robbing the motherfucking goddamn CIA. Steve Haynes, Dave Norton, and special guest Andy feel that a large sum of government drug money would be better off going through their paper shredders than the CIA's. For the moment though, Merryweather's up to bat. Trevor's in the battleship, while Franklin and I are in the bird providing air support. We don't know for sure what we're after. Whatever this highly coveted device is, it's waiting patiently at the bottom of the sea for someone to come save it. Merryweather didn't think we were doing them any favors by harvesting that device. Unlike most games, here I've got 2 options. I play as Michael and pilot the chopper, or be Franklin and attack the choppers. Flying straight to the objective didn't leave me any room in my life for living. I had to make Franklin push himself well beyond his mortal limit. There's a nice, tight little window where Franklin's able to be pretty accurate as long as you keep him on the side of the helicopter that's facing Merryweather. Back at the airstrip, Lester was waiting to beat someone to death with a cane. What we stole was a super weapon. We keep it, and that $50 million won't come close to scratching the bail money to get us out. Wade took the bomb back to its parents while I spent 10 minutes trying to use the bridge as a ramp. Then I got back to business. In case you forgot, Steven and Daryl have ordered the 3 amigos and the Invisible Fourth to rob the CIA. But this is the CIA we're talking about. We're basically hitting a preschool. The supplies are minimal. 3 funny masks for a distraction, a couple boiler suits because some kids play rough, a dump truck for another distraction, a tow truck for dealing with the piggies, and anything my heart desired as a getaway car. Of course, anything I wanted didn't mean anything I wanted. My parents made that call before I was born by signing the terms of service on my behalf. With all the pieces assembled, we executed the plan. Trevor's watching our backs from a distance with a sniper rifle, while Michael and Franklin take down the security truck in Cypress Flats. Blowing the doors off the truck with C4 activated an alarm inside the truck, giving us only 10 seconds to come up with a plan B and execute it. Plan B takes after the late great Judith B. Jones in that it was meant to be silent. The C4 f***ed up that and Plan C, forcing Plan D to be the dying of all the fuzz who came to be blown away. In the midst of an intense multi-man firefight, the auto-aim is more than generous enough to make killing easy. The 3 targets being blocked by my ignorance were gone with the sniper rifle. I successfully held off the cops, made my escape, damaged city property for fun, and drove to Devin's house. That armored train I robbed with John contained government bonds to be delivered to one Devin Weston. He's the main antagonist, but he's not really in control. The schoolyard comparison is Devin Weston's dad owns the school, but Steve Haynes has all the teachers on his payroll and all the other kids hate him. It's all of his connections that make Devin dangerous. Michael's mind is easily corrupted by the promise of meeting Solomon Richards, a character loosely based on Jerry Seinfeld. in exchange for bringing 5 exotic fancy cars to Devon. The Big D took the initiative of getting the trio back together again to kick off his festival of larceny with 2 cars from 2 college clowns. I've been in this exact situation before. 2 people ahead of me in much faster vehicles, leaving me in the dust until I'm all alone. Only this time I'm not 9 years old, and there's no stranger's door to knock on for help. Unbeknownst to the soon-to-be felons, I had Michael and Trevor taking advantage of the sale at Party City to pick up a couple costumes to help us with our plan. I drove 6 miles in Franklin's car to not damage either of the other 2 supercars, fly around the corner into the chop shop where all the cars are going, and fail the mission right there. That's 12 minutes I'll never get back. None of that matters. We finally get to meet the one and only Solomon Richards. His excitement faded away a tad when he found out I wasn't there to metaphorically take him to the Golden Corral. No, I'm here to be his errand boy, to solve problems for little to no pay. Richie's first mission had to be track down Rocco Pelosi and persuade him to do the right thing. This jackass is trying to shut down production on the movie. Fortunately for Richie, he hired one of the top 25 highest-rated hitmen in the county to handle this. Rocco'd been using his tongue he spray-painted silver to trick our movie producers into slowing down production. I put the fear of God into them, delivered them back to the studio, got named associate producer on Solomon Richards Presents Meltdown, tried to impale myself on a sign, smashed into the median and soared through the sky, used an LSPD helicopter to scan the suburbs for the owner of a Z-Type, had pity on the owner, and he repaid me by having his meltdown right behind my new car. After I had an accident with the car, I respawned in it, blew out one of his eardrums, killed him, took much better care of the car the second time. The third time the owner was super dead. Devin once again skipped out on paying me, so I bought the cab company and took a bus to Martin Madrazo's house to face the consequences for my actions. To put the scale of his madness into perspective, Marty had me use a high-powered rifle to shoot a plane out of the sky. All this destruction for a few files and the death of a cousin who was on the verge of testifying against Martin. Trevor, after seeing what transpired with that plane, made everything better by stealing Martin's most prized possession, his wife. Elsewhere, we join Franklin as he sneaks into the production studio to gather another car for Devin. I knocked out the actor wearing clothes to pretend to be him. If he's a true actor who cares about his craft, he'll appreciate this, and committed the greatest sin of all by failing my boss. I was hoping I'd be far enough back in this mission that I could get airborne before I fired the passenger into orbit. Not only was I unable to fulfill her dreams of going into space, Lamar's back. Obviously, there's a job he's got in mind. Whatever it was, I had a contingency plan in place. Michael didn't. Now he's stuck up in Sandy Shores eating possible human intestine with Trevor and Ron. The gang split up because Patricia, Martin's wife, was never returned to him. And since we're in this pickle, we might as well make the moist out of it. Ron heard of a Merryweather operation like no other. One of their cargo planes is making a run out of the West Coast. I've got a crop duster up against an advanced private military aircraft. I was also fighting without any bodied armor against gravity while watching out for falling jeeps. Shortly after regaining control of the plane, Merryweather's hot air balloons shot holes in one of my wings. Unwilling to go out empty-handed, I took the last jeep as my going-away present, went where I intended, forgot to squat and pray before leaping, screaming, and touching down on the ground. The 4th or 5th time I wanted to drive the jeep out of the plane at the last second, like I would pop out and land driving down the mountain. I guess I'd forgotten that the plane lands in the Great Sandy Sea. No more games. I landed safely atop a cell tower without a backup parachute, and since we're up in the country, we might as well rob a bank for old time's sake, and not because the federal government is ordering us to. That would be absurd. The front of the bank is nothing special. The back's got an alarm that can't be raised without raising perception to 7 first. But the real kick in the kneecap is the police response. The cops have never washed their insides. Every bone in their body is dirty. Expecting the false alarm to be a stress test, they set up roadblocks and checkpoints along all major roads, prompting a race between Michael and I through the mountains back to Michael's luxury resort to discuss the plan. We only need a gunman, and when it comes to gunmen, the only one I trust is Gus. On the other side of the planet, Franklin ran into the last of the O'Neill brothers and gave us a call to let us know what was about to go down. Chop blew up one of their cars, scattering them into the wilderness at night. If there's one thing the O'Neills know how to do, it's disguise themselves among the animals. But it takes an animal to catch an animal. I commandeered Chop in a segment that was somehow less interesting than a quick-time event boss fight. The O'Neills are no more. Michael, Franklin, and Chop drove back to town, and I hijacked a military convoy for their truck. Well, I tried to. My mistakes were as deadly as the boys I was stealing from. In my 4th life, after escorting almost an entire squad to the afterlife, I got ran over because I didn't look both ways. Nearly broke down in tears when it almost happened again seconds later, and with that, we were ready to hit the bank. Small town bank like this, They weren't expecting me to use the support kill streak. They thought I was going to earn my Juggernaut suit the real way. With a potential score of $8 million, I don't take chances like that. The government doesn't take chances like that either. They borrowed their mom's credit card and bought all the cheats in a last-ditch effort to recover what I'd worked so hard to steal. We took the train out of the station, got paid a solid 3 figures each for that job, and split up to continue the main story in various locations again. The next crime is right up my alley. Merryweather's latest attempt to conduct business had the unfortunate side effect of distracting me while filming my music video. I was tolerant of what they'd done right up until they ripped off the Borderlands 2 to catch a train mission. When it comes to crimes, stealing is almost as bad as littering. Unforgivable under any circumstances. I let Trevor do the exterminating while I handled the river. We chatted about Brad and examined the loot. A golden statue of Tito from Rocket Power for Martin Madrazo. With that statue, and when I get around to returning his favorite wife, all debts will be forgiven. Meanwhile, Four Eyes gave the 3 of us a new set of orders. Remember that time we robbed the CIA? What about when we got that nuclear weapon and had to give it back? They say those who forget their past are doomed to repeat it. Davey and Steve want a chemical weapon being stored in a competing government agency's research facility. It's a 6-man job. We have 3. We compromised by going in with 5. Dave and Steve tagged along with the subaquatic section. No dangers there unless your flippers run out of batteries, or you die of boredom cutting open this grate. These guys were smart. They gave me the stun gun. Nothing goes better with a soaking wetsuit than electricity in your pocket. With Cortana secured, I stuck the stun gun back where it belonged for as long as it was feasible. That's not what I wrote. I stuck with the stun gun for as long as it was feasible, swapped back to Old Reliable, and fought my way out of the building while Trevor was securing the chopper to transport this shipping crate to A&E. Speaking of Trevor, Martin's wife is finally going to a good home with a husband who will listen to every other word she says, and I finally bought the best handgun in this hemisphere, the .50 caliber pistol that was honestly not worth buying. I already had a couple different quiet guns, and in the midst of combat, fire rate matters more than raw damage output. Raw damage does nobody any good if it's being blindly sprayed out all over the place. You gotta focus that in a productive way, like painting the walls with people's insides. It's good to have hobbies. They keep the mind sharp. Our collective mind will need to be as sharp as a rock if we're gonna pull off the Union Depository job, the GTA 5 equivalent of Fort Knox. A monkey mask and a pea shooter are not enough for a job like this. We need everyone. Literally. Brad's been locked up in the penitentiary for trying to sponsor his own YouTube video. If that sounds far-fetched to you, I'd agree. The man Trevor thinks he's been flirting with has actually been Secret Agent Dave Norton. Brad died the day he got shot in the chest. The most unrealistic thing about this entire scene is Michael being minutes behind Trevor. Or maybe hours. I've never dug up a completely dead body. I'm not sure how long it takes. With the disgusting scent of truth now lingering in the air, both men pulled out their biggest guns, and the Chinese from way back showed up to ruin my moment. Dead, 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 dead. Over and over again, I got carried away and tried to serve up justice to everyone who followed me to the church. It wasn't good enough. I was captured by the Enclave. Trevor flew back to Sandy Shores Airfield, used Trevor and Lamar to pick up the final car for Devon, and drove back across the entire country. Almost 8 whole miles. To drop off the car. Cops showed up in the home stretch, a cop I should say. Using a gun against a cop is asking for a citation. I rammed into them over and over and over again to drive them off the road, slow them down, hurt their feelings, anything. I'd have settled for anything and got nothing. I defended the car, went for a ride, and Molly dropped the bomb. Devon has decided not to pay us, and let me tell you from personal experience, that's the last thing you'd want to do to me. Back in town, my motorcycle malfunctioned, causing an accident. Trevor had an accident too, and the 2 of us were off to find Michael. Currently, the Chinese have him hanging on the slowest conveyor belt in the world. They're gonna bore Michael to death while Franklin the Turtle uses a handgun bigger than himself to die inside the building. The multiple deaths from the Desert Eagle's slow fire rate prove that the gun isn't usually worth using. I found the combat pistol to be the gun that threaded the sweet spot between fire rate and damage. Unsurprisingly, Michael was largely on board with Devon screwing us out of all our money. An ordinary life with the common folk will never get in the way of him wanting to be an associate producer. Heading back to Simeon, I almost hit this woman with a streetlight, finished the job after that, and rode the swagmobile up to Lester's house. The union depository job is on the back burner until Michael can convince Trevor to join us. Besides, we've got more federal issues. The real heroes atop the FIB food chain are becoming aware of Agent Steve's misdeeds. He and Dave have gone full-on scorched earth. GTA 5 takes place in the faraway future of 2013 where everything is saved in the cloud. Breaking into the FIB headquarters and deleting all the files is enough to cover Steve's ass. Step 1 involved tailing one of the janitors for his costume. Power Man Lester had no need for door handles. Franklin graced us with his presence, left immediately to find an architect with blueprints for the building. Michael smacked his head, woke up at home, and headed to family therapy to figure things out. The entire family's here. There's my son and the whore, and of course my wife who is still taken aback by my life of crime. She wants to wrap herself around the long arm of the law, but Mikey's got other things on his mind. The therapy session lasted all of 90 seconds, and the family's back together again. Anyone who said an egg dropped from a helicopter can't be put back together clearly never met the DeSantis. Back to the big picture. We're trailing an architect for his building plans. As an important person in his slice of life, he came to the top of the tower to deliver the plans, only for me to turn his life off with a bullet, miss the elevator button, and plummet violently onto the briefcase, dooming our heist forever. I survived by refusing to die and listened to Lester go over the 2 ways to approach the heist. Plant a couple fire bombs on the building, then come to everyone's rescue as fake firemen after they go off. Or parachute in from the sky and sneak in. A fireman would never use a gun. Option B was the plan for me. I had another good luck smack, then got ran over for good luck, chased down the street trash, and would you look at that, it's time to scorch the earth. It's bureau raiding day for me, and burning down the barn day for Lester. We drove out to the airport and piled into my mom's van before being kicked out at 1,100 feet. At first, I was confused, couldn't remember if the plan was to go in quiet or blow the f***er open. It was a little bit of column A, a little bit of column C. Column B collapsed under the weight of what I expected of it. I tried to be Daredevil, but it didn't really work out, though I did get my blood all over the wall, like he might have. Blood doesn't have a heartbeat, so he'd never know. Anyway, I crawled through the burned remains of the FIB building. Rappelled down the side, I triumphantly took out a pair of helicopters with a handgun, hopped in the ambulance, and just like that the job is over. Quick and clean with no casualties, just the way I like it. All that's left to do is meet with D&D and put a neat little bow on the story. Or not. I love how Dave's so done with this shit he just doesn't even use both hands. Regarding what happened here, Dave Norton and his bullshit antivirus betrayed me. Steve and his new agent Sanchez showed up and betrayed both Dave and I. Moments later, swarms of feds rolled in as Sanchez betrayed Steve, who took an arrow to the knee when Merryweather prepared to fuck us all up with a helicopter. Right in the all is lost moment, Trevor killed the guy, waved howdy, and scattered all the ants scampering around below his tower. Now, we've got to figure out what the fuck happened and where the fuck we go from here. Since T-Bone's back being a pain in my ass, we decided to let Lester loose. While we were off making bank, Tanisha was sliding around behind my back, taking inspiration from my security deposit. She's gone, out of my life forever. I assumed Lamar had gotten himself out of town. Not so. He and Stretch went down the highway to the Paleto Forest sawmill for a drug deal. Lamar crossed the line this time by getting Chop involved in this mess. I've already wasted 7 out of his 9 lives in sweet car accidents gone wrong. Chop can't afford to waste one of his 2 remaining years here on this nonsense. That's what I've been working on this entire time, getting us out of the game, off the board, and into his mom's purse. Lamar, that is, not Chop. Oh, and by the way, Steve and Dave want Franklin to kill Trevor the instant he outlives his usefulness to the cause. I won't say that I agree with their reasoning, but if I were me, that's the way I'd do it. Across town, Solomon was putting the finishing touches on my movie when a handful of street toughs punched him right in the birdcage. I chased them down, popped Johnny's head like a melon, leaving Plank to get turned into an end table or something, instead of going to an end-of-life facility where he can soak up the wood polish in peace. As anyone who's ever worked on anything will tell you, nothing can ever go as planned. Devin and Molly scrapped the meltdown, and I refused to accept the fact that all those people I killed died for nothing. So I followed her to the airport. Can't explain what happened here other than by saying her ass should have become a fine powder. She fled inside the hangar, and what I predicted came to pass. Molly got all over my shoes. I picked up the film, pollinated the air, and drove to the red carpet to witness the birth of my movie. The mean things I said about his dead friend didn't faze Devin. He showed up at movie night anyway to ruin my evening by giving me a choice. Save half my family or watch the movie. Bitch, I'm John Wick, I'm a living, breathing movie. Nobody's better at video games than me, except maybe the younger and more concentrated version of me. With my family as safe as possible with me for a father, I went shopping to prep for the Union Depot job and ended up at the wrong end of a gun. I did the right thing. Stopped the crime, saved the day, but the store was closed. I killed the clerk for that, got thrown in the trash, and met up with the crew for the final job. There are two approaches for the big job. Shocking. We make them give us the gold, or we take it for ourselves. Doing the heavy lifting ourselves means we'll need a big fucking drill to break into the vault, a helicopter to airlift the gold from Fort Knox, and a train to drop the gold into after we escape. Option A is the one for me. Subtlety has always been my strong suit. To pull this off, we'll need an assortment of vehicles, starting with 4 heavily modified muscle cars that can support the literal tons of gold we'll be sneaking out of there. Against all odds, Lester managed to get one of them himself, leaving the other 3 to me. Upon learning that there aren't any waypoints to any of the locations, I'd have expected me to go berserk. But this is Paul 2.0 we're talking about. I had my phone in one hand, the steering wheel in the other, a burrito on my lap, and the wind in my face. I was in heaven. The first car is a Bravado Gauntlet with the classic Mitten Squad colors. Car 2 is a Bravado Gauntlet, draped in the always luxurious Mitten Squad colors. And the last car is a Bravado Gauntlet, representing all the royal trash in my Discord server. The entire crew is in position. We have the gear, we have the plan, we have the big L in the sky watching over us at all times. We're hitting the Union Depository. Michael, Trevor, and disposable friends 1 and 2 are cosplaying as cops under the bridge, waiting to ambush the armored trucks that'll get us into the depository. There's a 1-minute window under the bridge where the armored car's exact positions can't be tracked, which allowed us to strip the pavement, blow apart their tires, steal their wheels, and get inside. Because we looked the part, and most importantly, we believed in ourselves, the guard led us right into the vault and was even nice enough to walk us to our car with $240 million worth of gold. As Team A were hitting the bank, the rest, consisting of Franklin, Lester, and Paige, were waiting to play with the traffic lights. Merryweather caught on pretty quick to what happened and sent teams of mercenaries to stop us. That's where Franklin comes into play. He plays God by turning red lights into green lights. It didn't work. Merryweather followed us all the way to the loading point, and they sent all they had left to stop us. Legions of soldiers were nothing compared to what the law had in store for us. A full-on 5-star wanted level with all the fixins. Cops, helicopters, that's it. And thanks to the wild semi-trucks Trevor wrangled under the bridge, we got out of there without the cops suspecting a thing, and everyone got their moment to show why they're an asshole. The sun set, I got my millions in the bank. There's just one little detail to handle before I call it a life. Do I kill Trevor for Dave Norton and Steve Haynes? Do I kill Michael for billionaire Devin Weston? Or do I save them both? Because time was of the essence, I chose to call Lester for help. On the way to his house, I almost landed in a bathing pool, checked outside the man's house for intruders, and he gave me the answer. Kill Trevor. I'm not sure what happened next because I paused the game, unpaused, it paused on Franklin, and the next thing I knew I was outside calling on Lamar of all people for help. Clearly that was my heart giving out from the stress, and this is a dream. Michael and Trevor were in the foundry about to blow each other apart when I found them and let them know that an FIB hitting squad followed me, and we've got about a quarter of a minute before this place is swarming with feds. These are arguably the toughest enemies in all of GTA 5. Headshots work like magic, but you've still got to be careful to avoid death. Running up on a group of soldiers is a death wish. I hoped climbing into the drink would be one as well, but Rockstar's levels of detail has limits. With the gang safe and sound, we concluded that all the shot callers and bigwigs who've ruined our lives have to die. Like a lot. We've only got a single shot at this. Can't risk alerting anyone of our plan. Michael's going after Stretch, Trevor's got Steve Haynes, and Franklin's tracking down Wei Chang, the business bastard man who chose to work with the O'Neill brothers rather than the constantly improving and probably thriving Trevor Phillips Industries. Steven was the next to go. Not only was he the lamest of the bunch, he was the only one paying a cameraman to film him on a Ferris wheel. Now that Stretch occupies a body bag, Devin Weston is the last remaining pawn to be dealt with. He begged and screamed, pleaded, whined, and moaned for his life like it was the only thing that mattered to him. Despite that, he almost had the worst death in the entire game. Had his car not exploded, he'd have been down in the trunk with broken bones, laying in complete darkness as the trunk never fully fills with water. But that's life. Not everyone gets what they want. I, for instance, wanted to beat Grand Theft Auto 5 with only a pistol, but I didn't. If you enjoyed the video or learned anything, leave a like. Leave a dislike if you didn't enjoy the video or didn't learn anything. Thanks to the champion tier supporters, as well as other channel members, for making videos like this one possible. Join the Mitten Squad Discord server by going to mitten.land. Follow me on Twitter @MittenSquad. My name is Paul of Mitten Squad. Have a wonderful day.